Maddie Pruitt has a new man. Is Becca getting engaged to Thomas? Rachael, Lindsay, and Ben Higgins' friendship? We have all of the Bachelor news to get into this week, so welcome back to our channel. But before we get into it, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you're always up to date on all of the Bachelor tea. As always, I'm your host, Zachary Reality, joined by Blakely McHugh. Blakely, how are we doing today? Happy Friday. What is going on?
Happy Friday. I mean, it's always a good day when it's a Friday, right? Because that means the weekend is coming. A little struggling because yesterday was Cinco de Mayo, and of course you have to celebrate that a bit. But we're here. We're happy. It's Friday. I'm ready to go. How are you, Zach?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm ready to get into the weekend, but we got to discuss the latest Bachelor tea, and I'm sure there'll be more Bachelor tea this weekend, but let's talk about some of the highlights of the week. Now, Becca Kufrin shares some proposal details with Thomas. Could they be getting engaged soon? So Becca just wrapped up the Bachelor Live on Stage tour, and she has a bit of an idea on what she wants out of an engagement. She says her requirements are that Thomas asks Becca's mom for her blessing and that the proposal is done in private, since Becca already had 2 public engagements that did not work out between Ari and Garrett. And Becca even told listeners on the Bachelor Happy Hour podcast a funny story of Thomas jokingly proposing to her with a paper ring. So they are very much ready to do the damn thing, which is a pun if you guys remember that from her season. So what do you think about that? Would you take a ring if it's paper, or do you need a big diamond?
Oh, big diamond all the way. There's no paper ring on my finger.
What about a ring pop?
I love the way you just said pop. No ring pop either. It's got to be the real. It's got to be the real thing.
Yeah. And do you think they're like the next Bachelor couple to get engaged? Because, you know, there's Abigail and Noah, Susie and Clayton. Like, who do you think is going to be next?
I could see them being next because they are like more mature, a little bit older in their 30s or, you know, however old they are. So usually you move a little bit quicker when you're that age, right? But also she's had 2 engagements. So maybe she wants to take things slower. But they've been talking a lot about, I mean, Thomas, you know, the other day went on a podcast talking about, you know, what Becca wanted in an engagement. Now she's talking about it. So they're clearly having the conversation. So it leads me to believe that maybe it should happen soon. It would happen soon, but who knows? If so, though, I think they would be next because they're mature. They're ready for it, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think they're next. While some of the other couples have a few more, years in their 20s to live. I mean, anyone can get engaged at any time, but it seems like Becca and Thomas are ready, especially because they keep bringing it up. As you mentioned, they've only been together for 10 months, 11 months. So do you think that's a long enough time to get engaged, or do you think they should date a few more years?
I certainly think that's a long enough time. You know, they're not pulling a Khloe Kardashian and getting engaged and married in 3 months, you know? So almost a year is a good timing. I'm a big believer and you've got to live with the person. If you live with the person and it works well, then that's the big testament to if the marriage is going to work out. It's less about the time and more about how you live with one another. So, I mean, if you feel it, and again, Becca's been engaged twice already, so I'm sure she's going to know pretty quickly who's right and who's wrong, you know?
Yeah, and her past 2 engagements did happen on The Bachelorette, one being her season, one being Ari's season, and those engagements happened in like 6 weeks. So I definitely think 10 months is a lot longer. So I think they're definitely ready, and I will be excited for them. I've met them a couple times, and they clearly have a lot of chemistry. They're very much a unit, so I definitely see them lasting. Also, Blakely, I'm pretty sure Khloe got engaged, Khloe Kardashian, and like married in like 30 days to Lamar Odom.
Was
Like
it 30
it was like
days?
yeah, it was like really, really
Oh,
quick.
so I
So,
even gave her a little extra time.
yeah. And Chloe needs to be the Bachelorette. Like, there were a lot of people shipping that for a long time since she's finally done with Tristan.
Yeah.
And I know Chloe said on like one of the Kardashian interviews that she could never do it because she didn't want to like hurt people. Could you ever be the Bachelorette if that was the case, or would you ever go on The Bachelor?
Could I ever have 30 men pining after me? Yes. That's like a dream. Although
Yeah.
I would be hard to like in the final, you know, when you start getting to like your core group of people, I feel, you know, it really hurts me when I hurt other people. So that part would be really difficult. So I agree with Chloe there. but 100% I could be the Bachelorette. Are you kidding?
Wait, have you ever thought about auditioning for The Bachelor?
I have actually. But for a long time
Mm.
I've been in relationships, so I'm like, it obviously isn't going to make sense, but I'm single now, ready to mingle, so it's a
Ooh, well,
possibility.
I heard that they might be casting soon, so we'll keep our eye on that for you.
Better get on it.
Let's move on. Let's move on to our next topic because Maddie Pruitt has confirmed her new boyfriend. Now, Maddie was from Pilot Pete's season. She was quote unquote the winner, even though Peter originally got engaged to Hannah Ann and then tried to get back with
Mm.
Maddie. But that did not work out for Maddie and Peter. There was the whole thing with Barb. Now, Maddie has taken
Mhm.
to her Instagram to confirm her new boyfriend, Grant. Maddie writes, "So y'all know now I got the realest G in town. Grant Michael Trout, you are so full of passion and purpose and joy. I am proud I get to do life with someone who loves Jesus as much as people like you do. It's been the wildest adventure with highs and lows. They've been together for 5 months." So a lot of people were giving her some backlash online because she said there's been highs and lows when it's only been 5 months. A lot of people thought that she was like getting engaged the way she kind of phrased
Mm.
it. But if you know Maddie, she is a woman of faith. She's very godly and Jesus is very important to her. And she's made that really clear. So she found somebody who is a born again virgin. So it seems like it's her perfect match. Do you think people are judging her too hard? Or do you think Maddie just isn't really like all there?
I think people are judging her too hard. I mean, people just love to complain and judge about everything. And you can have a lot go on in 5 months. It may not necessarily be in your relationship, but maybe like in your family. If somebody passes away or you have things that happen and that person is supporting you. So it may not be a low within the relationship. It could be a low in one of their lives. And then their partner is supporting them. At 5 months, it seems like a short time, but it also can feel like a long time. There's a lot that can really happen in 5 months. I think people are being too judgmental.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for her and I'm glad that she found somebody who loves Jesus as much as she does. I've always thought she was a little extra with her captions and things, like not even like
Mhm.
taking apart her faith, just the fact that she's just so like, just so you all know, you're full of passion, you're full
Yeah.
of like she's just very like speechy. And she does public
Mhm.
speaking now. I know she's been doing that a little bit. So I mean, if that's her thing, good for her. And I mean, obviously, we want everyone to be happy and fall in love in life. So
Yes.
she found it, and we'll see what happens and what the next steps are for her. And we also know Peter's other quote unquote winner, Hannah Ann, found love a few months ago with an NFL champion. He just won the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
So, do we think Pilot Pete is next? Do you want to see Peter go to Bachelor in Paradise?
That's a good question. I think Pete needs to do some more inner work. Like he went from Hannah Ann to Maddie to Kelly, and I feel like there was probably some other people thrown in there that I'm not remembering or I don't know. And I think we just need Pilot Pete to his name needs to change to Single Pete for like a good chunk of time and just do some alone time, figure out what he really wants. You can't jump from woman to woman to woman, but also know what you want. It just doesn't, I feel like it doesn't work that way. So we need to see him, but he would stir some stuff up, I feel like, on the beach. So it could be good for our television screens. It could be fun to watch. But, for him personally, I think he needs a little bit more time off.
I mean, he's been flying planes. He's been,
Yeah.
chilling in New York City. He has a podcast. I think he needs to go to the beach. I think it'll be great
You
for him. I mean, I
do.
don't think he'll get a good edit. I think we'll enjoy
No.
watching him, but I don't think that he'll get a good edit. I've heard some other Bachelor people saying that maybe he could redeem himself in Paradise. But it's just like it doesn't work like that. Like you can't control your edit, and he already has this narrative around him. So unless he truly finds love in Paradise, they're not going to give him the best edit, and it's just not going to work out for him. And I mean, there could be a few other girls there from his season as well that might pop up. So I mean, it could give us good TV. Is there anyone else you're like totally down to see on the beach? Because we'll probably hear some casting rumors pretty soon since they start filming next month.
Who would I love to see on the beach? That's a great question. We have Gabby and Rachel are obviously the Bachelorettes, so we're not getting them. We've got to have, and I told you and Gianna last week that I was like, I missed sort of the beginning of Clayton's season because I was traveling around. So I picked up in the middle, but I feel like we have to have like Cassidy on. You know who would be really fun? Who was the girl who was like, I do not like Clayton and dumped him in the first episode?
Claire.
We need her. She would be funny. I think she would be great because we already know she's not holding anything back. We know she's coming with like her raw, unfiltered, honest opinion. That's who I want to see.
I think she'll end up being on the beach as well. I would love to see Claire. She was funny. And I'm sure we'll see Genevieve and Shanae and Teddy and Serene and some of the guys from Michelle's season, like Rodney and Brandon. And speaking of Michelle, Brandon would be great. And speaking of Michelle, my segue here, she wants to do Dancing with the Stars. So Michelle and Becca were talking on the Bachelor Happy Hour podcast. And since Dancing with the Stars is around the corner, Michelle says that she would like to do it. She says, I've spoken to a few former leads who have done it and heard it's a lot of work, but very strenuous. It could be a lot of pressure, but it's something I want to do. Now, Caitlin Bristow, Hannah Brown, and Melissa Rycroft have all taken home the Mirror Ball trophy, 3 previous Bachelorettes, and Nick Viall, Chris Soules, Grocery Store Joe have also been on Dancing with the Stars as well. So do you think they'll cast Michelle?
I think so. That was like, I think so with a question mark at the end. I mean, if history repeats itself, they'd cast Michelle. If you watch her TikTok, she's got some good moves. And I feel like she's in shape to be able to handle it. Girl's got like an crazy body. So insane crazy body. I feel like I just made up a word there. I think she would be great. And people love, I mean, their ratings have to go up when they have people from The Bachelor because Bachelor Nation is so strong, you know, and who they root for. So many people loved Michelle. She had great, you know, positive feedback online and everything. So I think she would be a wonderful addition to it.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to cast Michelle. I'm sure some people are thinking, well, maybe they'll cast Tayshia or Claire. I don't think Tayshia wants to do it. I think she's taking a break from ABC. The reason I think they're going to cast Michelle is because she is at the Bachelor Happy Hour podcast. It's a Bachelor affiliated podcast run by ABC. They like to keep it in the family. So I think Michelle has a great shot at being on Dancing with the Stars, especially because she's with Nate and they have a lot of love. But we also heard Dancing with the Stars is going to be streaming. They're going to be moving to Disney Plus instead of cable TV. Blakely, what do you think about this?
I'm curious how that will work for them, to be honest. But so many things are moving to streaming services. So many reality shows, so many contests, competitions. So I have to think that it'll just be as successful because most of the other ones have been successful as well. It's just such a change, and they do have a very like loyal audience. You know, people have been watching Dancing with the Stars since it started. So I would imagine that people would cross over and get Disney Plus to watch it too. It's just interesting, you know, the new age that we're in with streaming services and where live TV is going and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer live TV. I mean, unless they're doing live on Disney Plus, but it's just like, I don't know. I like voting, and I'm sure they're going to still keep a lot of the same rules and things, but I don't think that it's necessary for them to move it to Disney Plus. I think that's a big mistake.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary either, and I would love to know what the thought process or what the purpose is in doing that.
Yeah, I honestly think that they just are looking at, you know, the Kardashians moved to Hulu. Netflix reality shows are really popular right now. So I think they're just trying to get ahead of the time, and everything could move to streaming. Before we know it, there could be no more TV or cable because at this rate, streaming is just getting so much more popular. But let's move on to our next topic because Ben Higgins had Rachael Lindsay's back. Now, the former Bachelor stopped by the Talking It Out podcast with Brian Abasolo and Mike Johnson, and Brian wanted to thank Ben for having his wife Rachael's back. So when the whole controversy was going on with Chris Harrison and Rachael Lindsay over their interview over Matt and Rachael, a lot of Bachelor Nation, not necessarily like people in Bachelor Nation, but like fans turned on Rachael Lindsay. Rachael Lindsay got a lot of unwarranted backlash as she was conducting that interview. And Ben said that, of course, he is a good friend of Chris Harrison's, but he felt that there was two people involved. Ben says, I knew there was another person who was probably hurting in this. And because we both been leads, I thought maybe if she wanted to, I could talk to her and tell her I'm sorry this was happening to her. And Ben explains that he wanted to talk to Rachael and see where she was coming from and, just hope that she was doing well. So, what are your thoughts about all of this? Because a lot of people thought Ben Higgins should have been the host of The Bachelor because he's always taken that kind of mature older brother route as he's been an OG of the
Yeah.
franchise.
I mean, clearly he's continuing that role, like in reaching out to Rachael and being there for her. And I feel like it's always important when you have somebody who's friends with, both parties. Like the fact that he has a relationship with Chris, I do feel like that probably means even more to Rachael that she has his support and his understanding,
Mhm.
because when you have somebody who's in the middle and can see both sides and then also support you, you're like, it makes you feel a little bit more validated and understood. And I'm happy for her that she had that support.
Yeah, for sure. And I think everything kind of worked out the way it was supposed to. I mean, Chris Harrison obviously ended up leaving the show, which,
Yeah.
was his punishment for that insensitive interview. And Rachael, wrote her new book, Miss Me With That, which I read and I thought it was great. And now her and Brian are together. They're living in Los Angeles. They might be starting a family soon, which is exciting. And Ben
Mm.
Higgins also just got married to his longtime girlfriend, Jess, last year at the end of the year, and there was a lot of Bachelor Nation there. And we also know JoJo and Jordan's wedding is coming up very soon. It's actually going to be this month in Southern California. And a lot of people from Bachelor Nation will probably be there as well. So lots of Bachelor Nation
Maybe we'll
weddings,
get
engagements.
maybe we'll get a wedding special. Maybe we'll get a Chris and a Crystal wedding at the Bachelor in Paradise.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Paradise is going to be really good this year, but obviously we have
Yeah.
The Bachelorette first, which is in July. But I did want to talk a little bit, one more topic today about Matt James, because I just finished reading his new book and I have some new tea and details to share with the class
Ooh,
about him and Rachael. So are you ready for this?
I'm excited.
So, I mean, basically, we kind of saw everything happen on After the Final Rose, but Matt revealed that him and Rachael left After the Final Rose hand in hand. And then when they talked after the show backstage, they realized the spark was still there and they agreed that they wanted to work on their relationship right there moving forward. However, they still needed to kind of do some work on themselves. Rachael had to kind of do the work and realize,
Mhm.
her ignorance in the past and make up for that. And Matt kind of needed to process his feelings and everything. So they were together, but they weren't like officially together. It was almost like blurred lines where they were like
Yeah.
working towards something, but they weren't like a unit. Have you been in a situation like that? Because it always gets so blurry.
Yes. And it is extremely difficult to navigate because somebody is always having a higher expectation than somebody else. And
Mhm.
somebody thinks that this is what's happening, this is what we're doing, while this person is like, oh, I'm doing something else. And feelings always get hurt when you have a blurred line situation.
Yeah, so they had the understanding that like they were going to get back together officially one day, it just or like soon, it just wasn't at
Yeah.
this moment. So during those next few weeks after the final rose, Matt James ended up reaching out and rekindling things with some old flings. Now it was always casual, he was kind of just playing the field, but I mean, he still started talking to other girls, which really upset Rachael when news got back to her.
Hmm.
Matt didn't say exactly how she found out about it, but she found out and she was pissed. And she basically said, if you're going to talk to other girls, I'm done. She cut him off. She blocked his phone number. She blocked him on
Queen.
everything. I don't think she blocked him on Instagram because she's smart and she would have known that like everyone would have picked up on it, but she blocked his
Yeah.
phone number. So a few weeks goes by, the phone number is blocked. Matt is and finds himself in Atlanta for like an influencer boxing match. And Rachael lives in Georgia. And like all of a
Mhm.
sudden, he's at this match and he gets a notification that Rachael started sharing her location with Matt. They haven't talked for like over 2 weeks. So he's just shocked. So he looks at her
Yeah.
location and sees that she's 2 blocks away. So Matt assumes that she wants to see him, that she, I guess, saw that he was at this fight on social media, and that she wanted to see him. So he drives to go see her right after. And it turns out that Rachael did not mean to share her location. She just unblocked Matt's number,
Yeah.
and then the good old iPhone automatically shares the location. Does this sound
Good old
familiar to you with
iPhone.
locations and iPhones?
Yes, it does. That is just too funny.
So Matt was like so excited that Rachael wanted to see him because Rachael was the one that cut it off. And
Mhm.
he drives to see her. They end up talking for 4 hours. Rachael gave him an ultimatum. You're either all in or you're all out. So Rachael was actually the one who put her foot down and like had her pants. She basically was wearing the pants in the relationship. Matt was the one that was very apologetic, even though Rachael was the one with the past who did all these
Yeah.
wrongdoings and went to the party. But they ended up talking for 4 hours. I know, and they decided they're going to move forward and work on a relationship. And they've been strong ever since. And this has been a year now. So they're still going strong today. What do you make of that story? Because I did not even know all of this until I read the book.
Yeah, I'm actually really happy to hear it because I don't know if you remember, but last week when we were talking about them, I was like, I feel like Rachael can do better than Matt. He had disappointed me because I was like, why, he didn't, I didn't feel like he supported her, but then they're walking off hand in hand. I was like, come on, girl, like, stand up for yourself, So I'm really happy to see that she did do that and they did have a break. So it actually makes me feel a little bit more, I mean, not that they need my okay with the relationship, but it like it makes me feel like, okay, I can actually support this a little bit more because I feel like she had a say in their narrative and their relationship. It felt so much
Mhm.
that like kind of Matt was not being controlling, but controlling it in the sense of like when he was saying she needs to do the work and she needs to do this
Mhm.
and this and this, like to be with me, And so it just felt like, I don't know, I felt sad for her that she was just sitting there, just, I don't know. I felt like she
Begging.
was alone. Exactly. Yes. Great word to describe it. So I'm happy
Yeah.
to see that there was actually a bit of a role reversal and that she did kind of, like you said, wear the pants. And I'm always a woman wearing the pants in the relationship.
Yeah, because I mean, Rachael did mess up. Rachael had
Yeah.
this problematic past and she ended up doing the work and apologizing. She went on Instagram, explained it. She hired, a teacher to educate herself and she apologized and she was remorseful. And, she's a grown adult now and she's not going to make the same mistakes she made when she was in college. And, Matt kind of talked a little bit about that in the book, how
Mhm.
Rachael like wasn't really aware of the situation. That's kind of what he said, at the time. And Matt also admitted that, they didn't talk much about race during their season of The Bachelor. Matt said that he saved those conversations for the Black women on the show. And then with the white women on the show, he just didn't talk too much about race with. So he kind of took accountability, saying that he should have had more serious conversations with Rachael before they even left the show together. And he also said that the reason it took so long for him to find out about Rachael's past coming up is because he totally turned off social media while his season
Mhm.
was airing. He was like, I'm not going to check Twitter, I'm not going to check Instagram, whatever there's rumors and nonsense, I could care less. He just really wanted to like zone in because the noise could be really toxic when everyone's giving an
Yeah.
opinion. We saw how it got to Clayton this past season of The Bachelor. So I mean, what do you think about that strategy of the Matt James versus the Clayton Echard where he reads every single comment?
I think it's smart. I mean, you hear all the time celebrities like, not checking the comments or, turning their social medias off because the comments are mean and the Bachelor Nation fans are ruthless, like you do one thing and you have a meme and a TikTok sound and everything else made up about it, So I think you have to protect your sanity a little bit so that, you don't go crazy. Although that would be extremely difficult for me to not be seeing what people are saying.
Yeah, I saw Chelsea from Selling Sunset tweet about this. She's like, I'm just letting it free because it's like when you go on reality TV, everyone has an opinion of you and you can try and control what's
Mhm.
out there and control what people say and control what people think. But if you just kind of be like, whatever, here we go, it almost will be like a freeing feeling, and you just can't let those things get to you because
Yeah.
I mean social media is ruthless. I mean, we have opinions, we try and be fair and professional about them as we're journalists, but we still have opinions, and I think
Yeah.
that it's hard when you're on TV, but you also put yourself in that environment. Overall, I thought Matt James's book was really good. And I mean, I read all the Bachelor books, and I kind of want to know, Blakely, who do you think might come out with
Ooh.
a book next, or who do you want to come out with a book? I'll give you a second to think about it because there's so many Bachelor stars, and sometimes it
Yeah.
takes a couple of years to write a book, depending on when their season ends. Personally,
Mhm.
I have mine. If you are ready, though, let me know.
Share yours first.
Well, I was thinking Tasha. I think Tasha would be
Ugh.
really good when she writes her memoir, if she writes one. I probably will take another year or two or maybe 3 years. But I think Tasha would be really, really good.
You're right. Tasha would be really good. And she recently, there's like a comment that she wrote going around that
Hmm.
kind of alludes to maybe her and Zach's relationship was not as supportive
Hmm.
as maybe it
Yeah,
seemed. So I'm feeling like there's probably a lot that she has to spill and share. Do we have a book from Claire?
we don't. Would you want one?
I I think that would be a good one because Claire is just in 2 weeks, she was just a lot and crazy. And I feel like she has a very interesting like life story. Like we learned a little bit about her mom. What was it? Her mom got
Yeah.
engaged after 2 weeks, and then so
Yeah.
I feel like she has a very unique story that would be interesting to hear about and kind of like what all of her thoughts were when she was on The Bachelorette with Dale, because it all happened so fast for us and they got together, they broke up, they got back together. So I feel like there's a lot that we don't know.
Yeah, and especially because Claire has been on the show for like 7 years. I mean, she started on
Yeah.
Juan Pablo season back in like what, 2014. So I think that's a
Yeah.
really good one. I also want to see Katie Thurston write a book one day, and I know she's going to in a couple years when
Yeah.
she can really spill it all. But
Yes.
that is everything we have to share with you guys today. Those were the biggest Bachelor Nation headlines of the week. So be sure to let us know your thoughts on all of the hottest topics in the comments down below. And which Bachelor star would you like to see a book from next? Let us know, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell before you head out of here so you never miss out on any future videos. As always, I'm your host, Zachary Reality, joined by the lovely Blakely McHugh. Our social media handles are on the screen right now, so be sure to give us a follow, come say hello, and we will catch you guys in the next one. So have a good weekend. Bye.